Okay, so we just started seeing the third level yesterday, going through the first two again. So there's Yichud Tato, Yichud Ilah, corresponds to Baruch Shem Kavod Malchus Eliyel Unveiled, and Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, Echad and not Yochid, meaning one, meaning the possibility of two exists. It's not there, but the possibility exists, i.e. one out of the many. So the transcendent source of our world, which is the name Yud Kei Vav Kei. Shem Elokim, the source of what we call Yesh, created existence, multiplicity, right? The Shem itself, the name itself denotes multiplicity. It's plural. It's conjugated that way. Okay, it's not the Eibishter's plural chas v'sholem, but it's the source of plurality. What was pshat so in Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, we had an issue with the fact that it says Shem Hashem twice. So what was our answer for that at the end of Shir yesterday?
Isn't it the lower level and the higher level?
But Shem Hashem isn't lower level unity, right? Shem Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, is already upper level unity.
Oh,
Shem Elokim is lower level unity.
There's an even higher level.
And which Shem?
Chabad, delta or
The La'ela, Yefeh, okay. Completely transcendent level of godly reality.
Hashem Echad.
So Hashem Echad, that's the lower level. That's Yichudi Ilah. That's upper level unity, but relative to the level beyond, that's still a lower level, because there's three levels, right? So the middle level is lower than that which it is above, and obviously higher than that which it is below, so to speak. Okay. Yichud Tato, Shem Elokim. Yichud Ilah, Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei, but the Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei that is, so to speak, the map of what you and I call Seder Ishtalshlus, the map of worlds, right? Okay? The source of the godly light that vitalizes worlds. Not in any way, shape, or form a source of plurality. Where does the plurality come from? Kelim, vessels. Vessels allow for that. So there's an aspect of, we'll say something there, this might put this in a certain context that'll make it easier to understand. Kadosh Baruch is beyond infinite. We've said that a number of times. Kadosh Baruch is not one second. Kadosh Baruch is not infinite. Godly light is infinite. Kadosh Baruch is not infinite. Again, when we say godly light, it's just a mushal, it's just a parable for godly energy, godly revelation. Okay, we use the word light. Okay, so godly light is infinite. Right? God himself is beyond infinite. Why do we say God is beyond infinite? Well, because infinite's limited. What can't infinite do or be finite? It's not finite. There's nothing that Kadosh Baruch Hu isn't or can't be. Okay, so when we say Kadosh Baruch Hu, we're talking about the essence of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. In that place, so the Chassidus says as follows: Koyach hagvul be'ein sof, the power of limitation in Ein Sof. Koyach habilti gvul in Ein Sof, the power beyond limitation in Ein Sof. So let's, in slightly different words, we'll use them in English. Koyach hagvul in Ein Sof, the power of infinite in infinite in Ein Sof. Koyach hagvul in Ein Sof, the power of infinite in Ein Sof. The Eibishter himself is the source of both finite and infinite reality. That aspect of finitude, what's the source of that? One of God's names, an aspect of godliness. What's that? Elokim. The aspect of Kadosh Baruch Hu that can bring about finite, limited reality. Right? That's called Gvura. Right? Imagine how much power it takes to somehow compress infinite reality into finite reality. And there we are, this little world floating around in space. Right? Okay, that's pretty amazing. So what's the infinite reality? Or what do Kalim allow for? For that or to express itself in differentiated ways. Okay, so no, those differentiated ways could be godly. That's Elam Atzilus, the world of emanation. 10 spheres, no creation there. It's creator, not created. Olam Abriya, Yetzirah, Asiya, the three worlds, which we'll talk about more in the next mimer we learn, but just they're there. Metaphysical worlds and a physical world. Okay, where does all of that? Where does it come from? Shem Elokim, Kalim.
Oh, I get it now.
So God's
Kalim.
aspect of natural creation is also responsible for the supernatural levels of roles.
I wouldn't say supernatural. I'd say, I mean, if okay, supernatural is when you're talking about Seder.
Sorry, yeah.
When you're talking about worlds, so when you say in Chassidus, when you say supernatural, you mean beyond worlds.
Yeah, the ones
Okay,
above.
so metaphysical.
Yeah.
Beyond physical, yes, there are metaphysical worlds, and in those worlds there are creations. Those creations aren't physical, but they're a created reality, and so there are two of them. That's Elohim. Malach Raphael and Malach Michael and Malach Gavriel are three different expressions of godly reality. Right? Okay. What they're like, I don't know. I've never met them. Not that I know of. I mean, maybe they showed up and I didn't know. But I've never met them. We've heard about them. So Gavriel is evidently a little more stern. Gavriel milashon gvura, right? Sternness, power. Raphael, well, chesed, refuah, right? Okay. Different aspects of godly reality. In 10 spheres, chesed and gvura, infinite outreach and very powerful constrictedness. Two different aspects of godly reality, right? Somehow the mizug of both of them, the harmony of both of them, that's called tiferes rachamim. Okay, where does this all come from? Kalim. Now, Shem Elokim. Shem Elokim. I mean, Atzilus doesn't come from Shem Elokim. It's actually an expression of Shem Elokim because it's a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Right? Where does Olam Abriya come from? The first created world. Shem Elokim. Bereishis bara Elokim. Creation of Yesh, created reality, from Ayin, non-created reality. What's that? That's a place called Malchus of Atzilus, the lowest level in Atzilus, giving birth to the first level of created reality. That's called Olam Abriya. Right? Okay, so now in Abriya, Yetzirah, and Asiya, those three worlds. Asiya is where we are. Down there, what level of bittul is there? Bittul Yesh. There's a state of Yesh. There's a state of created reality, but that can be, and in Olam Abriya, it is completely in a state of bittul. It can see itself as solely a means to reveal godliness. Oh, it is. It's a created thing. The Malach doesn't say, I don't exist. The Malach says, I exist to reveal godliness. I am, let's put it better than exist. I am to reveal godliness. Okay? Fine, that's Bittul Yesh, that's the lower level. Right? Bittul Metzias, that's the middle level, Yehudi Law. My whole Metzias, my whole existence is an existence of Bittul. That's Elam Atzilus, a godly world, that's Tzaddikim. Right? You and I, what's our Aveda Bittul Yesh? We are very, very aware of our own existence. Now that's not a bad thing. The Eibishter gave you that experience. That experience comes from a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, it's quite an amazing experience. But the question is, how do I express that? How do I use that? What do I do with that experience? Do I just wallow in the experience of self? Or do I use that experience to reveal that which is the source of that experience? God. Where am I going with that? So if I'm in a state of bittul, so I'll express the godliness of it. If I'm feeling a little more the state of yesh, so I'll just figure out how to express myself. Whatever that is, right? I mean, it can be all sorts of things. Right? I can eat. I mean, I don't mean eating lunch. Just I decide I'm going to go get a chocolate bar because I want to experience a chocolate bar. Okay, so that's not necessarily a godly experience. The fact that I mumble a bracha before it doesn't turn it into a godly experience. I have to mumble the bracha before it, okay, but it's not necessarily a godly experience. What if I'm really, really hungry and I don't have energy to do what I realize I should be doing with my life, and the only thing around is a chocolate bar? So eat the chocolate bar.
Yeah.
Fantastic, you'll have energy for the next however long until you crash. From the, a little too much sugar too fast, okay, but you'll get some energy, and then hopefully you'll eat something normal at some point that you'll feel like a normal human being. Okay, And sometimes if you're tired, you have to eat something, okay? So go eat. Tired isn't always just lack of sleep. It's almost always a lack of coffee, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's bitterly. Bittel b'metzias, it's all elokus, right? There is a reality, but that reality is all elokus. Relative to the world's just an expression of godly reality. There's no separate existence. The higher level, which you saw yesterday, there's no world. They don't talk about that. Where's that? That's like so far away from that state of reality. Right? Because as we said yesterday, we're going to define a Kadosh Baruch Hu in terms of world. You're going to define me in terms of picking up the cup. They did. And that, if we, and I mean this seriously, right? If you want to define that action, that's an unbelievably sophisticated action. What goes into that is amazing, with going on in here, and the nervous system, and sending that message to the hand, and what do they call them? Synapses, I think, right? Yeah. Synapses, all those synapses just hanging around and bringing so that I can pick up this cup. It really is an astounding act. Okay, so you and I can understand that part of God, and it's astounding, creating the world at different levels of light, and wow. Okay, but still just that relative to Him. Right? And this, as amazing as it is not nearly as amazing as the fact that humans can sit and learn to say this, humans can use their intellect to create things like this, which allow all sorts of stuff to happen. Now, some of it, unfortunately, is bad, but a lot of it is good, right? Amazing things can happen, right? Some of the artificial intelligence that guys were explaining after Gemara Shir a couple of days ago, I think it was last week, right? Because someone's involved in it, right? What things can do, so that's really quite astounding, amazing. Okay, more sophisticated.
Do we live in we only live in the level of Asiya?
The part of you that is conscious of you is down here in Asiya. There's a part of you that lives in Olam Atzilus. It's a level of your soul called Chai Yeshiva Nefesh. That part of you is living in Olam Atzilus, but I explained how to access that and experience that. Tzaddikim do.
Where's their Yechida? Where's that? Is that beyond?
That's in the level of the essence of God, right? So that's
okay.
closer to the third level.
Okay.
That's Me'odecha, yeah.
So Atzilus is a kli or it's not considered? It is a kli, okay.
There are 10 kelim up there. They're called 10 spheros.
Okay.
Right? Now, that's why we say that there's Atzilus is referred to, and again, we're going to learn Basi Lagani, the Frida Rebbe's Basi Lagani after the break. So the Frida Rebbe explains that it's just, it's sort of Aleph base in Chassidus, that, Aleph base, we said it, you still have to learn it. Atzilus is called Gilui Helam, the revelation of hiddenness. So now that can be understood in two different levels. The simplest level and the only level we're going to talk about now is as follows. What's hidden? The 10 spheres. In infinite reality, there's no revelation of any specific reality, right? Those 10 spheres exist in godliness. Those 10 aspects of godliness exist in God's essence, but they're completely concealed. Why? Well, because they're not revealed as separate entities. So just like the color blue exists in the light floating around here, but you don't see it, it's concealed. What allows for the revelation of the color blue? A kli that allows you to see blue. Is there blue here? There is blue here. There's red, yellow, and blue, right? There's photons floating around out here. Okay, and there are different color photons, whatever that means. Okay, so they can, in other words, there's different aspects of physical light, and this is why we use light as a mushal, because it's such an incredible mushal for godliness. In physical light, there's all these properties, but when you look at the light itself, just the light, so to speak, floating in the middle of the room, bouncing off all the dust particles so we can see it, right? So that light contains within it, for all intents and purposes, an infinite amount of different expressions. But they're all completely concealed. You don't see any of them. When it hits a kli, you then start seeing an expression of all of those different, again, for all intents and purposes, infinite expressions of light. Now, you and I call that color. Say that. Okay. So to the edge. Or Sovev, infinite godly light, what's in there? Everything's in there. It's all in there. But it's concealed. Why? Because in infinite reality, you don't see specific reality. You don't see where Chesed ends and Gevurah begins, so to speak. Where does this aspect of godly reality end? And you don't see the infinite reality. You don't see that. What happens in Atzilus? Those aspects of godliness called Chochmah, Bina, Das, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, Netzach, Chod, Yesod, Malchus, those 10 aspects of godly reality come into a state of revelation. Gilui Ahelim, the revelation of what in infinite light was hidden. Now it's come into a state of revelation. Why? Kalim, spheres, not teacups. God's not light and God's not teacups. Okay, but you and I will use the word kalim. Why? Because it just these mashalim are so amazing. Right? They allow us to understand things that are completely mufshat, completely conceptual. Okay, you and I can talk about Elam Atzilus. Elam Atzilus. That's like Kleinegeld. You guys, we can talk about, wow, Ak. Right? You want to talk about Ak? Yeah, let's talk about Ak. Wow. Okay. So the Kli allows for the revelation of what you and I will call finite. So even in Elam Atzilus, you can, so to speak, say, well, 10 spheres is, in terms of godly terms, relatively finite. It's not finite like this, but you're talking about 10 different levels of godly reality, so there's a revelation of the ability of a Kodesh Baruch Hu, even though he's absolutely one, and he's absolutely, not only is he one, we now know he's Yachid, he's only, but that only can express itself in 10, and it can even end up expressing itself in tables, chairs, sparrows, and leaves, which is really just mind-boggling. It's absolutely mind-boggling. Yeah.
So are the spheres, are they the Kli for all the worlds to enter into that multiplicity?
Yes, there are 10 spheres in all of the worlds, but when we talk about the home address for 10 spheres, we're talking about different aspects of godly reality, and all that's there is that godly reality, and that's what's completely and totally revealed. That's it seems. So everywhere else is going to be concealed.
Okay, so it's...
What allows you to do an act of loving kindness? The godly energy of loving kindness that exists in the world, called chesed. That's true. Yes, they're down here. Absolutely. 100%. That's the godliness that's down here. In Atzilus, that's all completely revealed. If you and I take a field trip to Atzilus, what will we see? 10 spheres. If we take a field trip to Elam Abriya, what will we see? We'll see neshamas living in a place called Gan Eden Elyon, Upper Gan Eden, and we'll see a bunch of malachim. We'll see angels. That's not God. That's created stuff. Even that neshama is, so to speak, the created aspect of the neshama, not the essential godly aspect of the neshama. It's very godly. Right? It doesn't hide the angel. Okay. If you go to Elam HaYetzirah, you'll see more angels. Go to Elam Hazeh, what do you see? Well, if you go to, there's even a metaphysical, it's called Elam Asiyah Haruchni, the spiritual Elam Asiyah. What's that? Well, everybody's probably heard of the Chazal that says every blade of grass has an angel standing on it going, grow, grow. Okay, that's called Elam Asiyah Haruchni, the level of metaphysical reality that is directly responsible for physical reality.
And that's
The place that the guy in the physics lab gets to, that he sees there's some energy that he can't measure, it has no mass, it has nothing, but there's some energy that is acting upon the smallest particle that he can see. That's Elam Asiyah Ruchni, right? They see God, these guys. Right? It's quite astounding. Right? There's some energy that is, the smallest particle I can see is being affected by something, but I can't see that. No matter how much I turn up the microscope, I won't see it.
That's
so to speak, right? So, because why? It's not physical. That's energy.
Yeah.
It's acting upon the smallest physical particle, but it itself is not physical.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Like those guys, those real guys, like if they're real and they're, they don't have an agenda, they're like amazing. They're really amazing. Those guys are fiddling around trying to figure out what it's really all about. I mean, they can only get, the only thing they can understand is Elam Asiyah. Right? But if they really open up and understand that, they come to the conclusion that there's something bigger than Phil, as was the, when the 2,000-year-old man was asked, when they started believing in God, how did you believe? When did you guys start believing in God? So he said, well, there was a big guy, his name was Phil. And we had to do what Phil said, because if you didn't do what Phil said, he beat you up. So we all worshipped Phil. And then one day Phil was walking around and some lightning hit Phil. And that was the end of Phil. And we said, there's something bigger than Phil. Okay, right. There's something bigger than us, yeah? Okay. So, but that's all Yehuda Tata, right? But that's Yehuda Tata, yeah? There's something bigger than us. There's an us, and we're here, and there's something bigger than us, and that's really what it's all about, and that's why I'm here, is to reveal what's bigger than us. Okay, good. That's Yehuda Tata. Yehudi law, that's something that's bigger than us? No, even us is just that. Right? There's an us, but it's all that. Right? Okay? All is God and God is all. Okay, yeah.
So Rabbi, when the light hits the keys, so when we start seeing the revelations, well, why is it like what's in the vessel, and why does the light not go through the vessel?
When we talk about physical light, it reflects off the vessel. When we talk about godly light, it's clothed in the vessel, giving the vessel vitality. Okay? Giving that reality vitality. Meaning the vessel is that which allows the very fact that in Atzilus, the vessel itself is godliness, right? Our mashal was the ice cup, right? H2O holding H2O. So what does that say? So that says, in essence, every vessel is just godliness. I mean, it's all really that. Right? Okay. Say that that's Yehudi law. Yehuda the Torah is there's a vessel, and the vessel is separate from the Eibishter. You realize the whole purpose is to serve the Eibishter. Okay, Yehudi law is with the vessel also is just Alakus. It's all this thing. Okay, so it's when the light is clothed in that vessel, when that godly energy is clothed in that thing, it's given existence.
So bringing back to the mashal of the light, would it be then that the light of Ein Sof is like white light, and then a prism would be like the Sephira, and then out of it is the multiplicity?
Yeah, that's true. 100%. Meaning, a prism will you'll realize that light really contains all sorts of different aspects. Yes, that'll be. The prism allows you to see that in physical light, right? So where does that come into a state of revelation in Elokus? Atzilus. Okay, but it also comes into a state, if you understand what this world is, what's this world doing, it's also just revealing exactly the same thing.
So then,
that's why we put the Rasha and the Chacham next to each other at the Seder. Who's the Rasha? There's 4 sons corresponding to the 4 worlds. Who's the Rasha? This world. Who's the Chacham? Ma'ilum Atzilus. We put them together at the Seder. They're sitting next to each other. When we talk about the 4 sons, we talk about the Chacham and the Rasha together. Why? Well, because this world, you see what this world really is, it's all just Elam Atzilus. It's all just Kalim revealing godliness. Okay, so that's Yehudi law. Yehuda Tata, I'm very taken by the existence of the world, but I realize it's for the purpose of serving God. Yehudi law is I'm not so taken by the existence by the separate existence of the world. I realize the world is just a garden revealing godliness. That's Yehudi law. Now, you and I can experience that intellectually. I might not experience that like I experienced the taste of chocolate pudding, but I can experience that. And as a matter of fact, that's why, and this is the Rebbe Shab talks about this at great length, you might ask, right now having just learned what we learned, well, I understand. If our whole avodah is bittul hayesh and Yehuda Tata, so why are we even talking about other levels of reality? Oh, because and the Rebbe Shab says this explicitly in a kuntras, in a pamphlet that he sent to the Tamimim in Lubavitch. It's called Kuntras Eitz Chaim. It's something you should all learn. It's also translated into English. I don't know how good the translation is, but it's out there. I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying it's not good. I'm just, I don't know, but it's translated. Couldn't you say it's a Chaim? The Rebbe Rashab explains why we have to learn Chassidus and why it's necessary to also involve yourself in contemplation about transcendent levels that are beyond your experience. Because if not, your experience of Yehuda Tata will be very megusham, will be very materialistic and very limited. But once you're aware of the fact that there's another level beyond that, and maybe even more levels as we're learning, so then your experience of Yehuda Tata will also be godly and not worldly. Now, I'm not living there, but I know it's there. And the fact that I know it's there, I can appreciate that, and that affects my relationship with the world around me. If I don't know there's any transcendent level, so I just take the world too seriously. Even though I know, okay, so the world's where I'm supposed to serve God. Okay, I get it. Right? Like people love to say, you don't hear it around here as much, right? But you hear it when you're teaching young Lubavitchers who haven't yet, figured it all out, which is perfectly reasonable. Like that's what they're doing. That's why they're learning, right? What do they often say? Yeah, but the Rebbe wants us to be in the world, which is the excuse to go to movies. Right? The Rebbe wants us to be in the world.
Wow.
Yes, the Rebbe wants us to be in the world. That is true. Because God wants us to be in the world. That's true. Which world? The world that God created or the world that the non-Jews in the world created? With a lot of Jewish help. Right? Which world? Not Netflix. That's not the world that God wants us to be part of. He wants us to be part of the physical world. He wants us to be a very positive part of that world. Not ignore it, not pretend it's not there. Right? Like the story of a young man who went to meet his prospective father-in-law. And the father-in-law asked him, so what do you want to do? He says, I want to sit and learn Torah all day. He said, well, how are you going to support my daughter? He said, God will help. He said, okay. If you got any plans? He said, God will help. This went on for a while, and he kept getting the same answer because this was a very firm young man, I guess. So then a friend of his was talking to him the next day. I hear you heard you met your prospective son-in-law. I said, yeah. Nice guy? Great kid. Right? I said, yeah. What did you talk about? Well, different things, his plans for the future. So, what was the thing you liked best? So the thing I like best is he thinks I'm God. That's nice, but the Eibishter wants us to look at ourselves too, right? If that's the situation, if you're Elon Musk's son-in-law, so you might just be able to sit and learn all day, right? I mean, you're probably not going to have to, right? Okay, and we should really want to sit and learn all day. The Rebbe wants our desire to be to sit and learn Torah all day. Right? But we can't. Why not? Because there's just too much to do in Elam Hazeh. Sometimes that includes making a living. Some people it doesn't include making a living. Say, but there's all this other stuff to do in Elam Hazeh. Like what? Like there's all these Jews who don't know enough about Torah and mitzvahs, never heard about it. It was stolen from them. Okay, so go give it back. Right? If they weren't there, what could you do all day? Sit and learn Torah all day. You don't have to worry about it. But they're there and they need your help. There's someone laying on the sidewalk next to you. Put down the Gemara and help him up. Right? Does that mean you never pick up the Gemara? Of course you pick up the Gemara. You have to sit and learn. You have a mitzvah to sit and learn, okay, as much as you can. Right? Okay. Rambam says, work 3 hours a day, learn 9. I don't know how we did this, but whatever. Okay. He was a doctor. Yes, he was a doctor. Very busy doctor. The king's doctor.
He wasn't on call.
He did right. He wasn't on call in the hospital at night. He was a holy Jew. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Wow. The Ramban was also a doctor. Nachmanides was also a medical doctor. That's actually what you did as a medical doctor in those days. I'm not exactly sure, but you didn't prescribe penicillin, that's for sure. Okay, so Yehuda Tata, Yehuda Ilah. And I know we're beating this to death, but we're not beating it. These are things we really have to understand, right? The Mittler Rebbe said that his dream is that when two Hasidim meet in the street, they will discuss their spontaneous conversation will be about Yehuda Tata and Yehuda Ilah. That's what they'll talk about. Okay, well that's what Hasidim talk about. Right? Yes, I exist. No, I don't exist. Ooh. It's wild. We live a wild life. Baruch Hashem. Okay, so now let's get to the third level again. The third level is Yochid, not Echad. Echad is the whole world's God. But there's a world. There's a Metzias of the world, but it's a Metzias of Elokus. The third level is there's no world. It's just the Eibishter. Hashem Yachid. Right? Okay. Ein od milvadai. Nothing else. The lashon of the Rebbe here, second line up from the bottom of the page. Hari hu yachid ve'efes zulasa. There's nothing other than him. Efes. Havaya habase. This second level. I'm sorry. The Havaya base in Shema Yisrael. Hu Havaya de latata. That's the lower level Havaya. Havaya de ishtalshalus. The Havaya that's the source of the light for that reality we call Seder Ishtalshalus. The orderly downward emanation of godly light. A shalshelet is a chain. The chain-like downward emanation of godly light in all four worlds. Seder Ishtalshalus is the four worlds. And that's why when you say L'mayla mina teva, we often mean L'mayla mi Seder Ishtalshalus. That's why to say supernatural, we have to be careful how we use that. So yes, relative to the physical world, anything beyond the physical world is supernatural, for sure. No question. But often in Chassidus, when we say L'mayla mina teva, we mean beyond Seder Ishtalshalus, b'chlal. Okay? Yeah, we have to understand the context. That's all. V'lochen shaykh by the second level, it's relevant, shaykh, it's relevant to it, the lashon echad. Yeah? One. V'zui in this, now back to our Hanukkah, v'zui mailas hanes, and this is the special property of the nes, the miracle, the haspakas, a shemen. The shemen lasting shmeina yomim, 8 days. Shehis feel that began on some level, b'chaf vav b'kislev, on the 26th of Kislev. And what's the 26th? Chaf vav v'gematria Shem Havaya. That's the actual numerical value of Shem Havaya. So that's Havaya Delayla. That's so to speak the real level of Shem Havaya, the completely transcendent level of Shem Havaya. Right? There's the Eibishter. What else? Nothing else. Hashem hakol ve'efes zulasai. Hashem is everything and there's nothing else. What about on the level that there is something else? Okay, the level that there is something else. There's also two levels. The level of all that's there is really just him, and the level that, no, it's there, it exists, but what you use that existence for is the revelation of him and not the revelation of you. Okay. Bit from the bottom up. Bit yesh, bit b'metzias, and we're not giving a name to it here, but basically that's an essential existence. Just Eibishter. Ein od milvado. There's nothing else. It's all him. Okay. And we're trying to dance that dance all the time when we're down here in Eilam Hazeh. Right? Not to get too hung up on the Eilam Hazeh of it. But I have to deal with Eilam Hazeh. Why? Because God said so. To deal with it. Wow. Deal with it and still realize that it's not there. Okay. Oh. But I mean, if it's not there, I'm also not there. So don't get so worried. So when we say, and did we say this? Right? When you say it every day in davening, he renews every day the creation. You say that, and you're going to say that in Shachris this morning, right after Baruch. Every day he's always renewing my separations. So what does that mean? Right? That means at 6 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time, the world goes out of existence and comes back into existence, and then the BBC says, "Good morning. It is 6 a.m. in London." No, I don't. Is London Greenwich Mean Time? Must be. Okay. The world has just come back into existence. I am now going to lie to you for the next 24 hours until the world goes out of existence. Then I will start lying again to you at 6 a.m. tomorrow, because I'm the BBC and I just lie all day long. Right? We were the first. So we're better at it than anybody. Israel today. We used to have to listen to BBC when we first came here because they didn't know Hebrew and there was no English anywhere. So you'd listen to the BBC News, and every time they said the word Israel, you could just feel the hate. In Israel today, the Palestinian Authority said that Israel was so amazing to listen. Ugh. But the best part, what was the best part, Harry? Mitzi Shabbos. Luton Town 1, Everton 2. Going through 500 soccer games from, in those days it wasn't the Premier League, it was what?
Division 1.
Division 1, right. Division 1, Division 2, Division 3, Division 42. These little, it was like teams that were a block, they won this, and but you could always tell what the next number was going to be based on the tone in the first number. So it was 0-0, Tottenham 0. We used to listen to this guy, it was the greatest, it was so entertaining. And the names of these places, Bindlehinden, it's just crazy. The English, God bless them. Okay. So somehow BBC also exists somehow. So the miracle of the oil is the highest level, and that's a level that completely obliterates anything that you and I might call natural. Right? Finding the shemen, okay, it's miraculous, but it's miraculous within the context of, it's a world. There is a world, and this was a supernatural thing that happened, transcendent of the world, but it's still relevant to the world. That's Yehudi law. Burning 8 days, it's a complete annihilation of anything that you might call world. There's no such thing in the world. Oil burning for 8 days. Shizcha b'chavvav al hanes the metzias pach hashemen. So this is a nes that's higher than the nes of finding the shemen. That's miraculous, but it's still within the context of the physical world, right? Shanes the metzias pach shemen, that the nes of finding the pach shemen shahaya b'chaf hey b'kislev keneged chaf hey, that corresponds to the 25 oisius letters sheb'shma Yisrael. That's Yehudi ilah. Hamshachoseh, the drawing down, the godly energy that's drawn down to power that miracle, humi avaya delatata. That's Hashem echad. It's happening within the context of the world, but it's clearly transcendent of the world. The second, the nace of the oil burning is a complete obliteration of any reality of world. Now, okay, I understand it's happening in with physical objects, but it's just completely and totally beyond anything imaginable. Finding the shemen, okay, they found, a miracle happened in the context of the world. It was transcendent. There was no milchama. It was a metzia. That word is very important, meaning it just happened, so to speak, consequently. They didn't do anything to make it happen. They didn't have to encounter the world in a direct way to make it happen. That was the war. The war is Yehuda Tata. There's a world. You're in a fight with that world. You're battling that world to try to bring about some revelation of godliness in the world, and the world is trying to overcome you and darken everything, and you're trying to illuminate everything. That's the battle of Yehuda Tata. Okay, that's beating the Greeks on the battlefield. Then there's this miraculous finding of oil that, for all intents and purposes, took no effort. Happened in the world, but it was just this. That's why the language is matzati. They matzu, they found. It's a metzia. It's just something that happened. I didn't work for it. Why? Because there's no opposition. There's not such great opposition. Right? Okay. And then there's the third level. It lasts. That's just completely and totally beyond world. It's not shayach. It doesn't happen in the natural world. That oil lasts 8 days. And so the finding there, that's me Veata, Hashem echad. The nes the spakas Hashem and lishmanin yomim, and the nes of the oil lasting for 8 days, the mispar shmeina, this number 8, mura, and we learned this in our last mimer, instructs al bechina shelamayla mishtashus, a level completely beyond the natural order. When we say the natural order, we're talking about all 4 worlds. What powers all 4 worlds? 7 midos. 7 godly aspects. The world is all 7. Right? Okay, good. What's the 8? The 8 is the transcendent level. That's why that level was revealed on Hanukkah. So Hanukkah is an 8-day holiday, and we learned that in our last mimer. So that which the idea of the candles burning, is from a level completely beyond Shalamayla Mishtashus, is beyond the natural order. And again, when we're saying the natural order, we mean the natural order of godly emanation in the 4 worlds. Right? Completely beyond that. Right? Because that is a level of godliness that has certain rules, so to speak. This breaks all the rules. There's no rules, there's no world, there's nothing. It's just the Eibishter. 8. Okay. Yeah? 3 different levels. Chav dalet, chav hey, chav vav. Quite astounding. Chav dalet, Baruch Shem Kavod. Chav hey, Shema Yisrael. Chav vav, Havaya. Really amazing.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
is that idea similar to the miracle of the Kodesh Kadoshim not taking up space but being here? Is it-
Yeah, to a great degree. Matter of fact, that we mentioned yesterday, that's exactly how the Rebbe explains it. The Rebbe, it's interesting, it's not a Hanukkah Sikha, it's a Sikha in Parshas Chaya Sarah. What happens at the end of Chaya Sarah that is very, very interesting and similar to the oil here lasting longer than it should naturally. End of Chaya Sarah. What happens in Parshas Chaya Sarah? The whole Parsha is about one thing and basically one thing only. And what's that? We just read it. It wasn't that long ago. If I ask you about the end of Bamidbar, I get it. It was a long time ago. Parshas Chaya Sarah was a few weeks ago. What do we learn about in Parshas Chaya Sarah?
The marriage.
Ah, beautiful. The Shidduch of Yitzchak and Rivka. Okay, the end of the Parsha, what happens?
She lights the Shabbos candles.
Ah, so the Shabbos candles burn all week, right? And the dough has bracha in it all week. Ah, okay. So the Rebbe explains all of that, especially the light, in line with Hanukkah.
Right.
So that's where the Sikha in Hanukkah is all about. In Chaya Sarah, it's not a Hanukkah Sikha, it's in Chaya Sarah, but the Rebbe explains how Hanukkah lit work also. That we lit it, but it didn't burn, similar to the Aron. It was there, but it didn't. Whatever was supposed to happen to it, it didn't happen. But it was both there and not there. That's called Nimna HaNimnaot, the paradox of paradoxes. That's the Eibishter. That's why when those, we've talked about this before, but you have to be extremely limited in your appreciation of God to think that the question, can God create a rock that he can't pick up, is actually a question. If you know anything about God, it's a rather silly and unsophisticated question. Why? Well, of course he can create it, and of course he can pick it up. What do you think he is? You? Just live with it. Well, but how can he create it if he can't? He creates it as something he can't pick up, and then he picks it up. Well, problem for him. It's a problem for you. But that God is. I mean, how does the Rashba refers to a Kadosh Baruch? The Rashba, the famous Rishon, the Rashba, refers to it was a Talmud of the Ramban. Refers to the Eibishter as Nimna HaNimnaot, the paradox of paradoxes. What's the ultimate expression of that? The Aron Ein Min Amida. Dr. November mentioned that the Aron's there in space, taking up space, but not taking up space. How can it take up space and not take up space? For you and me, that's impossible. For God, that's just not so difficult. It's just who he is. Right? He's just beyond anything we can imagine and not limited by anything that we experience as limitation or even imagine as limitation. It's just not limited. Okay.
How do you say that? Nimna?
Nimna. Nun mem nun ayin. Nimna hanimnaot. Nimna is a paradox. Something limno. I mean, it's interesting because it's the same word means both an engine and to prevent. Minya is something that prevents something from happening. Right? Okay, but a manoa is an engine, same root. It's an engine. Engine in a car is called a manoa, that which makes something go. I don't know. Yeah, it's itself a paradox. I don't know, but whatever. You can live with that one. Okay, let's go for it. For Yesh Lamer, now the Rebbe is going to say something very interesting. A little, I think what's been said up until now has been interesting also. The word ko is a very interesting word. Ko Amar Hashem. Right? When the Rambam discusses Nevuah, so he discusses the difference between Moshe Rabbeinu's Nevuah and everybody else's Nevuah. Most prophets prophesied with the word ko. Ko means like this, k. Right? Zeh Moshe Rabbeinu prophesies with the word zeh. Zeh keli unveiled. This. What's the difference between this and ko? This is a very complete and whole understanding of the reality. Zeh. I see it. Ko, it's like this. Right? What's that? What are the words used to explain the difference between Moshe Rabbeinu's nevuah and the others? Moshe Rabbeinu's nevuah was be'is aspaklaria ha'me'ira, through the clear looking glass. He saw things clearly. The other Nevi'im, it was through what was called aspaklaria she'eina mira, the unclear looking glass. Imagine somehow a misty looking glass. You can see what's there, but it's not exactly clear what it is. Moshe Rabbeinu sees elokus, mamash, like you and I see a cup. Most of the other Nevi'im experienced unbelievable. You're talking about Yeshayahu, Yirmiyahu, you're talking about serious people. Right? Their experience of elokus was not the same as Moshe Rabbeinu's. Right? It was a level of ko. Right? There's the difference also between the beginning of creation and the end of creation. The beginning of creation was on Chaf Hei Elul, the 25th day of Elul, ko. The end was Zeh. It's the whole revelation of the Zeh HaYom, Tchilas Ma'asecha. This is the day, beginning of your deeds. Yom is also a word of revelation. Okay. So the word ko is always a lower level of revelation. So now that's very, very interesting. That schafei is ko. That's our middle level. So that's havaya de latata, but that's also yichud de ilah. So relative to the lower level below it, it's a level of tremendous clarity. But now, interesting enough, now that we see there's a third level, it's also a level lacking complete clarity relative to the level above it. So it's only ko. It's only thus, not this. Right? Okay, let's see. That's what he's about to explain. The Yeshleimer. The Zeu Gam, this is also, Shebishma Yisrael Yishchafei Esvin. There's 25 letters. That word Esvin is Aramaic, and that is just what the Gemara says, so that's why the Rebbe is quoting it that way. Which is bechinas, the quality of ko. Thus, not zeh. Zeh is a higher level. Af, even though sheyechudi ilah, even though that yechudi ilah, the upper level of unity, bechlal, generally, how is it referred to? He bechinas zeh. It's usually the level of clarity. When is it the level of clarity? Relative to Yehuda Tato. Okay. Everything's relative, right? And when you learn Chassidus, you'll learn something about a particular level of reality, and then you'll learn something else, and it'll tell you something different about that level of reality. Well, I don't understand. I learned before something different. Okay, but say that. Why? Well, because it depends on the context you're talking about. Meaning, for instance, Eilam Atzilus. Eilam Atzilus is that level called Ayin, non-created reality. That is the source of that level called Yesh, created reality. So when we say Bria Yesh Miayin, the creation of something from nothing, what do you mean nothing? What does nothing mean? It doesn't mean nothing. It means the creation of something created from something that's not created. It's godly, it's creator, it's not created. Okay, which is miraculous. How can, well, I mean, just think about it. Eilam Atzilus. What should, if Eilam Atzilus gives birth, what should Eilam Atzilus give birth to?
Another Atzilus.
Another Atzilus. What do cows give birth to? Cows. What do horses give birth to? Horses. Okay, so what should Atzilus give birth to? Atzilus. What comes out of Atzilus? Something that's completely different, absolutely miraculous. Right? The closest mushal you and I get to that, it's used in Chassidus. Obviously, we know it's not a perfect mushal. But when you water the ground, guess what? What doesn't it grow? Ground. Grows an apple tree. Wow, cool. How's an apple tree come out of the ground? I should water the ground and I should be able to grow a mountain. Oh, I want a mountain in my backyard. I want to ski. I just keep watering it and grow, and I get this mountain. Just be careful it doesn't uproot your house. You have to be careful. Right? Okay. That's theoretically what should happen. Well, that's not what happens. Because kayach hatzemeach that's in the ground, the power of growth that's imbued in that ground, right, which in physical terms is called minerals, but in metaphysical terms is called kayach hatzemeach, right? Okay. Just like in physical terms, there's vitamins in food, which you can't see, but you and I know they're in there, right? But a caveman would just think, I don't know, it's an orange. It's an orange here. No. This isn't an orange. This is vitamin C. Don't you understand? Vitamin C. What are you talking about? It's an orange. No. You and I know that in the orange is this hidden stuff called vitamin C, and that's really the good stuff. But you and I know even more that the vitamin C is just an expression of godly energy that gives you the true energy that you're getting from the orange. You're not getting the energy isn't coming from the vitamin C. The energy is coming from the godliness that's vitalizing the vitamin C to be vitamin C. We just go a step further than the guy in the lab in Pfizer, right? Making his little vitamin C pills.
Prozac.
Right? Yeah, whatever. Making up a new COVID vaccination so we can all get a 36. Right? Okay. So the inner reality of it is what's really there. Okay, Beseder. So there's always going to be, I got lost where we were, but there's always going to be a deeper level. Now, generally, when we talk about the relationship of Yehuda Tata and Yehuda Ilah, Yehuda Tata will be Ko, and Yehuda Ilah will be Zeh. This, revelation. Now, interestingly enough, Yehuda Ilah, which is Shema Yisrael, is Chaf Hey, 25 letters, which is Ko. Why? Because there's a level beyond. Okay, I'm sorry, I know what I was talking about. I was talking about Atzilus, I'm sorry. Just in terms of everything being relative. You will learn Atzilus as Ayin when you start learning Chassidus. Always. What's the source of Bria Yesh Mi Ayin? Something from nothing, so to speak, created reality from non-created reality, godly reality. That's Atzilus, which is Ayin turning into Olam Abriya, which we call Yesh. When you talk about higher levels of godliness, sometimes Atzilus will be referred to as Yesh. Why? Well, there's 10 spheres there. Right? It's not an absolute expression of Echad. Why? Well, because there's 10 things there. My goodness. Right? So that's relative to what is above it. It's a certain level of yesh. Relative to what's below it, it's actually called ayin. Okay. And you have to get used to that. Okay. So here, what do we say? Relative to what's below it, we will refer to Yehuda Ilah as zeh, a level of clarity. Relative to what's above it, interestingly enough, we'll refer to it as ko, a level that is lacking complete clarity, or not an absolute expression of truth. It's emes, but it's not what's called emes lamite, the truth of the truth. Emes, the world is all God. Emes lamite, there's no world. It's just God. Right? True? Okay, that's true. So use Avshi Yehudi laws, and let's try to finish the paragraph in 3 minutes. Avshi Yehudi law, hu bechinas zeh, ki havaya de latata, the lower level of havaya, legave havaya de la'ela, but havaya de latata, Shem Echad, Shema Yisrael, relative to havaya de la'ela, the level of efezulasa that we just learned about. Nechshav is considered kamei like Elokim. Like Shem Elokim, Tzimtzum, constriction, limitation. Wow. Because everything's relative. Va bittul de Yehudi Ilah, and the bittul of Yehudi Ilah, bittul b'metzias, shemitzad, that comes from what? Havaya de latata. We've got all this equation, and these are things that I don't want to take up your time, and I don't want to cause you to have to do things, but if you don't review this mimer at night, you'll forget everything you learned, and it might be an interesting hour in the morning, but it'll be completely useless in 2 weeks. But if you review it, this is every mimer you ever learn in Chassidus Shir in the morning, or any mimer you ever learn. If you review it with a charusa yourself for 15 minutes every night, you might not get through everything we saw, but if you review it, you'll remember it. If you don't review it, you're not going to remember it. It'll be nice. Just, you'll remember the jokes. I don't know whether I'll necessarily remember anything in the mimer. Right? V'bittul d'Yehudi Ilah, we know what this is. Shemitzad havaya de latata, legave, which is relative to havaya de la'ela, right? It's all relative. Hu kamei is like Yehuda Tata, meaning the middle level, relative to what's above it, it's like the lower level. Relative to what's below it, it's an upper level. So if we talk about Shem Havaya and Shem Elokim, now the Rebbe just said an amazing thing. Shem Elokim, that source of godliness that's shaykh to limitation. Worlds, okay. So relative to that, Shem Yudke Vavke, the Latata, the or, the light that is drawn into the four worlds, that's all upper level unity. But relative to what's above it, it's like lower level unity. It's like Shem Elokim, it's like constriction, because what are you talking about? Well, the world is part of everything you're explaining. You're talking about the level of godliness. The level of godliness is transcendent of the world, but it's being defined in terms of the world completely and totally. There's a level of godly reality that's not defined in terms of the world in any way, shape, or form. Completely transcendent the world. When you talk about those levels, and Chassidus discusses those levels of godliness, when it does, there's no world. It's discussing the world. It's not discussing this even as somehow that part of that process that ended up with a world. Okay, Seder, it's there, but it's not even mentioned. The word world, the word olam, the word nefesh bahamis, the word human being will not be mentioned in the mimer. It's not there. Some people don't like learning that part of Chassidus. Why? Because they're not there. I want to learn the Chassidus talks about me. Right? Not about me in a selfish way, about me and serving God and how I can serve God better. Whatever. What are these two levels called? One's called a Veata, service. The Chassidus is going to talk about how to serve God better. And then what's called haskalah, ideas. Ideas in what? In God. So some people why is that relevant? Relevant. There's an article about your wife. And the first thing you do when you look at the article, there's pictures. The first thing you do is look for a picture of yourself. Okay, there's no picture of yourself in the article. Okay, so then you know that every time a name is mentioned first in the article, it's in bold. So you look for your own name in the article. I wonder if I mentioned in this article about my wife, her illustrious husband. Is her illustrious husband mentioned? Nope, not in the article. I don't want to read this article. No, I can't. Well, I would assume I'll read the article. Why will I read the article? It's my wife. Oh, it's my God. Maybe I want to read the article even if I'm not mentioned. This article is only about God. The world's not there, I'm not there, Nefesh Elokis isn't there, Nefesh Bahamis isn't there, nothing's there, it's just about Him. Well, wouldn't mind reading it, it's my God, isn't it? If He is, I'll read it. If He's not, so then I just, find me a mimer that talks about me, please. I'm trying to make myself better, which is a good thing to do. Maybe one of the ways I can make myself better is realize there's a state of reality where I'm not. It has nothing to do with me. Nothing. Oh, wow. Okay.
So, Rabbi, what would you say about avoda and haskalah?
Avoda is the parts of Chassidus that talk about how to serve God better. Avoda, serving. Haskalah is those maimarmics. This is just talk about different levels of godly reality. Not about us, about Him. Let's finish the paragraph quickly. So the middle level relative to the upper level is, so to speak, like the lower level. Koi. That's why Shema Yisrael has 25 letters, which is Ko. Manyan. Usually we relate to Yehudi law, which is Shema Yisrael as Zeh. No, in this context it's Ko, relative to what's above it. And so too, the miracle of finding the flask of oil, that was on the 25th of Kislev. That's a minor miracle. Relative to the revelation of completely transcendent level of godliness that was revealed through the oil lasting 8 days. The true level of Zeh, the highest level of godly revelation in the story of Hanukkah, this is the nace of finding of the oil lasting. Lishmerni Yom. When did that begin? It's the godly energy being drawn down to bring about that revelation. That's the level of Avayda Leila, our third level, Shalamayla Mishtashis, which is completely beyond the natural order. Okay, 3 levels. Elokim, Avayda Latata, Avayda Leila. Bittul Hayesh, Bittul B'Metzias, Efez Ulase. Baruch Shem Kavod, Shema Yisrael Hashem Echad, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu. Right? Those are the 3 levels. Now we should know that. We have to know that. Write it down. Write down those three things so you'll remember those three different ways of explaining the three different levels we've been talking about. Right? Okay? And then the fourth level, Chav Dalet, Chav Hei, Chav Vav. Yeah? Fifth level, Milchama, finding the Shemen burning. 5 different ways of explaining the same 3 levels. Okay. Seder. Let's go meet the maker. And we'll go Weita tomorrow. Smimer is something else.
Rabbi says something.
We always say that, right?